Hey there, silly story here, bringing you another silly tale for everyone to enjoy. Title: Don't Mess with the Blind Heiress. People have always found me an enigma. I'm Elara Worthington, the blind heiress to the vast Worthington Empire. And my life is one of elegance, wealth, and secrets. There's something about walking through life in darkness that sharpens the senses, that makes you hear and feel things most people miss. In the world of the wealthy and powerful, sight isn't always needed to see the truth. I can tell when someone is lying from the slight hitch in their breath, or when their loyalty wavers from the tension in their step. My blindness, a seeming weakness, has granted me insights others can't even imagine. Yet people often mistake me for vulnerable, soft, delicate like a prized antique in a glass case. It's a misconception that has proven useful many times over. For all the society balls, the business dinners, and the whispers behind my back, people always underestimate me. They focus on the family wealth, the Worthington name, the glittering jewels. They think the heiress is just another pampered beauty, lost in her own world, a woman whose life is defined by the men and the money around her. But that's not me. I didn't inherit this life to let others control it. Every decision, every plan, and every step is carefully orchestrated, and I'm always several steps ahead, whether people see it or not. Recently, though, two men have entered my life, each determined to keep me safe in his own way. It's amusing, in a way, that these two strangers have placed themselves as my protectors, champions, as though I'm some damsel in need of rescuing. But I must admit, they are good. Very good. Leo Hastings, my bodyguard, has been by my side for nearly a year now, and his presence has become as steady and warm as the sun. A former soldier, Leo has a quiet strength that reassures without overwhelming. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with an easy confidence, and a roguish charm that's far too infectious for his own good. The sort of man who can break down a door or diffuse a tense situation with the same unruffled calm. His laugh, low, genuine, always tinged with a hint of mischief, is often the sound that pulls me out of my own thoughts. Leo has this way of making me feel understood, even on the dullest days, when the weight of the Worthington Empire sits too heavily on my shoulders. Leo is clever, but his instincts are even sharper. He's a master at reading people, at sensing threats before they surface. With Leo, I can feel a certain balance between the world I grew up in and the world beyond, the world of danger and raw survival that he's known. His gaze is often fixed on me, though I can't see it. I can feel it, warm, attentive, almost protective, but there's something deeper, too. A curiosity, a question he's afraid to ask. Sometimes I wonder what Leo sees when he looks at me. A blind heiress, yes, but what else? Maybe one day I'll ask him. Then there's the newest addition to my security team, Ethan Gray. He arrived at the estate not long ago, fresh from a consulting job with some high-profile government agency, and immediately changed the atmosphere. Ethan is a brilliant, slightly socially awkward security consultant, a man who lives and breathes technology and security. He was hired to overhaul the estate systems, a task he took to with the kind of laser focus and meticulous care I can respect. Tall, lean, with a sharp jawline and piercing gaze, Ethan is every bit as intense as he is intelligent. His dedication to his work is borderline obsessive, but I can't deny that his technology has made the estate almost impenetrable. Ethan is efficient, sharp, and relentless. While Leo's strength is in instinct and adaptability, Ethan's strength lies in his methodical approach to safety. He sees threats as puzzles, problems to be solved with the perfect combination of codes, alarms, and surveillance. Yet, for all his knowledge of technology, Ethan sometimes struggles with simple, human interactions. He's cautious around me, respectful but uncertain. There's an almost endearing quality to the way he hovers, his voice soft and low as he updates me on the latest upgrades. He has this habit of explaining things to me in detail, as though the sound of his own voice might help him understand me better. I can feel their rivalry every time they're near, though neither of them would admit it. Leo's quick jokes, his easy confidence, often throw Ethan off balance, making the younger man's cheeks color faintly. Leo teases Ethan in this almost brotherly way, playfully mocking the gadgets and codes with a smirk that hints he's half serious. All the tech in the world won't stop a man who knows what he's doing, Leo says, grinning whenever he catches Ethan glancing my way. Sometimes, all you need is a good old-fashioned instinct. Ethan, for his part, quietly sees, responding to Leo's jibes with tense, clipped phrases and muttered rebuttals. But I can tell he's listening, filing Leo's words away in his mind. There's a small, grudging respect in his voice when he speaks to Leo, a respect he'd never admit aloud. Ethan's an intelligent man, after all, and he knows that sometimes experience speaks louder than technology. But when it comes to me, neither man is willing to back down. They're an entertaining pair, each one trying to win my favor, each one subtly stepping closer to me at every opportunity. When Leo walks beside me, his hand hovers near my shoulder, ready to catch me if I stumble, his voice always warm and reassuring. He's not overly cautious, he knows I can manage on my own, but there's an ease to his movements, a sense that he's by my side because he wants to be, not because he has to. Ethan, on the other hand, is deliberate and almost hesitant in his approach. When he guides me, it's with a careful precision, his voice lower, softer, as though he's sharing a secret only I am meant to hear. His fingers brush my arm gently, always with that slight, lingering hesitation, as though he's afraid of overstepping. He talks to me in a different way than Leo does, almost reverent, each word chosen with a precision that betrays his nerves. With Leo, I feel like I'm wrapped in warmth and laughter and ease. With Ethan, I feel like I'm unraveling a mystery, each conversation a chance to glimpse the thoughts behind his quiet intensity. The contrast between them is magnetic, and I find myself equally drawn to both. They're so different, yet each is fascinating in his own way. I wonder sometimes if they realize how much I pick up on the way their breath hitches when I laugh, the quick glances they cast when they think I can't see. They may believe they're the ones watching over me, but in truth, I see more than they realize. I feel every shift in their emotions, every silent question, every unspoken word. They've become part of my world. These two men, their lives intertwining with mine in ways they can't yet understand. And as much as they believe they're here to protect me, I know better. There's a storm coming, and I can feel it building on the horizon. A threat that neither Leo's strength nor Ethan's technology can fully prepare for. Marcus Blackwood, the name whispered in the shadows. The man known for his ruthlessness, and his cunning is out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. And when he does, I'll need every advantage, every ally I can find. Until then, though, I'll enjoy this little game we're playing. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the scent of jasmine lingered in the air, I sat in the grand parlor of the Worthington estate, sipping my tea in the soft glow of the chandelier. The estate was quiet, too quiet, as if the very walls were holding their breath. But then, the familiar sound of footsteps reached my ears. It was Leo, striding into the room with that easy confidence of his, a wry smile playing at the corner of his lips. "Elara," he said, his voice warm but with an edge of urgency. "You might want to hear this." I set my teacup down, my fingers brushing the porcelain, and leaned forward. The tone of Leo's voice was enough to tell me something significant was on the horizon. As a bodyguard, Leo was rarely flustered. But today, there was something in the air that made even him pause. "Go on," I said, the words soft but commanding. His smile faded as he pulled up a chair and sat down across from me. "It's Marcus Blackwood. Word on the street is he's planning a heist, a big one." My heart stilled at the mention of the name. Marcus Blackwood. The very mention of him sent a cold shiver through my spine. He was the kind of man who got what he wanted, no matter the cost. A man known for his ruthless methods and cunning mind. Marcus was a criminal who specialized in targeting the wealthy elite. And he had a reputation for taking what was most valuable not just in monetary terms, but in legacy. "What's he after?" I asked, my voice steady despite the sudden rush of adrenaline in my veins. Leo's gaze sharpened, and for a moment, I saw a flicker of concern in his eyes. "The Worthington sapphire." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. The sapphire, a family heirloom passed down through generations, a jewel whose origins were shrouded in mystery, and whose value was beyond anything money could measure. It was said to have the power to bring both fortune and ruin to anyone who possessed it. There were stories, legends, really, that it had once cursed an entire line of Worthingtons, though the details were as murky as the history of the family itself. I had grown up hearing tales of the sapphire's power, of the people who had coveted it and the lives it had touched. Some for the better, others for the worse. To most people, it was just another priceless treasure. But to me, it was more than that. It was a symbol of everything my family had built and a reminder of how fragile that empire really was. "Do we have a plan?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even. Leo's lips curved into a mischievous grin. "We do. Ethan's already implemented a new security system. Cameras, sensors, the whole shebang. If Marcus even thinks about getting close, he'll be caught." At that, I raised an eyebrow. Ethan, the newest member of my security team, the one who was always buried in his screens, tracking every movement and mapping every possible exit strategy. Leo, on the other hand, preferred a more personal approach. "Where is Ethan?" I asked, though I already had a pretty good idea. "Probably tinkering with the security grid in the command center." Leo replied with a chuckle. "He's already got half the house rigged with his gadgets. You know him always playing it safe, making sure every inch of this place is covered." I nodded. Ethan's way was meticulous, precise, almost too cautious. I couldn't deny the brilliance of his methods. Every door, every window, every weak point had been reinforced with technology that made the estate nearly impenetrable. But there was a part of me that found his methods impersonal. He was so wrapped up in the details, in the numbers, in the data, that I often wondered if he truly understood the nature of the danger that threatened us. I glanced over at Leo, who was watching me with a knowing smile. "And you?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Leo's eyes sparkled with that familiar gleam of mischief. "I'm doing what I do best, scouting the grounds. I'll set up some traps, reinforce the entrances, maybe even hide a few surprises for any would-be intruders." His smile widened. "You know, just in case." I couldn't help but laugh at the thought. Leo had a knack for thinking outside the box. While Ethan would be monitoring every camera feed, Leo would be out there on the grounds, setting his own traps, physical, psychological, and perhaps even a little bit of fun. He had this way of turning danger into something almost playful, as if he reveled in outsmarting the world. "The two of you," I mused, a small smile tugging at my lips, "make quite the pair. One's all about gadgets and codes, the other about instincts and traps. It's like a game to you both." Leo leaned back in his chair, his hands behind his head in that casual way he had. "Maybe," he said with a wink. "But if I had to bet, I put my money on the old-school approach. There's nothing like a little unpredictability. And I'm sure Ethan would argue that predictability is the best way to stay one step ahead." I replied, the corners of my mouth twitching in amusement. The two men couldn't be more different in their approaches. Ethan, with his precision and strategic mind, had filled the estate with the latest technology, from hidden cameras to motion sensors, ensuring every inch of the mansion was under surveillance. He made sure no door or window went unguarded, even going so far as to set up biometric systems that could identify a person by the sound of their footsteps. His was a fortress of data, a maze of wires, screens, and digital alarms. Leo, on the other hand, preferred the art of the unpredictable. He would scout the perimeter, setting up physical barriers and traps that only he could foresee. No gadget could replace the instinct that Leo relied on. He would take to the grounds with his usual nonchalance, setting up decoys, surprise detours, and concealed tools in places Marcus and his team would never think to look. But I was no fool. I could see what was happening here. These two were not just competing to protect me. They were competing for my approval. Each of them, in his own way, wanted to prove that his method was the best, that he was the one who could keep me safe. Leo, with his unshakable confidence and hands-on tactics. Ethan, with his cold efficiency and attention to detail. They were as different as night and day, and yet both seemed determined to win me over. I almost felt guilty for enjoying the rivalry between them. Almost. But what neither of them knew, what neither of them could possibly understand, was that I had already started preparing in my own way. I had known this moment would come, had sensed it long before the rumors of Blackwood's plans had reached us. I had been watching and listening, waiting for the right time to step in. And now, as they scrambled to protect me, I would make sure they learned one very important lesson. It wasn't just their skills I needed, it was their trust, and I was about to show them that I wasn't the helpless heiress they thought I was. In the days leading up to the heist, The tension between Leo and Ethan became almost palpable. Each man was determined to outdo the other, to prove that his methods were superior in keeping me safe from the imminent threat of Marcus Blackwood. It was a curious thing to witness both of them, in their own ways, trying so hard to earn my approval, unaware that I had already started to form my own plans. Ethan was the first to grab my attention. His precision was something to behold. I found him early one morning, hunched over the security control room, surrounded by a forest of wires and glowing screens. His eyes were glued to the monitors, his fingers flying over the keyboard as he ran simulations, tweaking settings, and adding layers to his digital fortress. "Everything is in place," he said, barely glancing up when I entered. "I've mapped every possible entrance and exit, programmed automatic lockdowns for all vulnerable points, and set up motion-sensitive cameras all over the estate. If Marcus even breathes in this direction, we'll know." I walked closer, running my fingers over the sleek surface of the desk, letting the hum of the machines fill my senses. Ethan's focus was undeniable, his mind working a mile a minute as he adjusted yet another sensor. He was so consumed by the task that I almost felt like an intruder in his world. But I had to admit his dedication was impressive. "You've really thought of everything," I said, giving him a small nod of approval. He stopped for a moment, blinking up at me, his face breaking into a pleased but reserved smile. "It's nothing, really. Just the right tools, the right systems, and the right mindset. I won't let anything slip through the cracks." I nodded again, sensing the weight of his words. There was a level of confidence behind his quiet intensity that I couldn't ignore. For all his awkwardness and seriousness, Ethan was a man who took his job, our safety, very seriously. In his own way, he was every bit as protective as Leo, but with a different approach. Later that afternoon, Leo found me in the garden, casually inspecting the new set of tripwires he placed around the outer gates. As usual, he looked effortlessly at ease, his hands tucked into the pockets of his leather jacket, his lips curled into a smirk. "You've been spending too much time with Ethan," he teased, nudging me lightly with his shoulder. "All these gadgets and gizmos are good, but what you really need is someone who knows how to think on his feet." I raised an eyebrow, looking him over. Leo always had this relaxed confidence about him, like nothing could possibly ruffle his feathers. He was the kind of man who would rather throw a punch than sit through a lengthy security briefing. "And how do you plan on dealing with Blackwood?" I asked, crossing my arms. He shrugged, unfazed. "Sometimes, all you need is a solid right hook," he said with a wink. "And if things get really messy, I've got a few surprises up my sleeve. Maybe a little tripwire here, a marble there." He tapped his fingers together with a knowing grin. "Marbles?" I asked, amused. He nodded enthusiastically. "Blower? Yeah, you'd be surprised how effective they can be in a pinch. And, hey, they make for a great distraction." I couldn't help but laugh. His methods were so unorthodox, so refreshingly simple, but I knew they had their own charm. Leo never worried too much about technology or high-tech systems. He just relied on his instincts, his sharp reflexes, and the occasional bit of playful mischief. "That's interesting," I said, trying to stifle a smile. "But I think Ethan might have a problem with your methods." Leo's eyes glinted with amusement. "Ethan? Blow, I know. He thinks I'm a little old-fashioned. But that's the thing. Elara, some people rely on gadgets. Others just trust their gut. And when it comes to keeping you safe, well, you can't hack instincts." "Don't be so sure," I teased, sensing Ethan's high-tech systems were starting to look more and more impressive. "There's something to be said for the kind of security you can't see." Leo snorted, a grin tugging at the corners of his lips. "Fair enough, but mark my words, instincts have never failed me. You'll see when Marcus tries to pull anything funny. I'll be ready." As we made our way inside, I couldn't help but wonder how things would play out. They were both so determined, each in their own way, to protect me from Marcus. And yet, they couldn't have been more different in how they approached the task. Ethan with his precise calculations, and Leo with his unpredictable creativity. They were as much a study in contrast as they were in rivalry. That evening, as I sat quietly in the hallway, I overheard the two of them arguing outside my door, their voices rising in playful frustration. It had become a regular occurrence. "Leo, do you even understand how any of this equipment works?" Ethan's voice was tinged with exasperation, though there was a note of amusement beneath it. Don't need to, Leo replied smoothly. It's all about instincts, not gadgets. You can't hack instincts, can you? Oh, please. Ethan scoffed, clearly trying to remain patient. One of these days, instincts alone will get you into trouble. You can't rely on that forever. The bickering continued, and I couldn't help but laugh softly to myself from where I sat, leaning against the wall. I hadn't meant to listen in, but the sound of their playful squabbles was oddly comforting. Despite their rivalry, despite their differences, it was clear they both cared for me in their own way and, in a strange way, they each brought something invaluable to the table. At that moment, I stepped forward, the soft click of my heels betraying my presence. Their voices immediately quieted, and I could almost hear the surprise in their silence. I opened the door slowly, finding both men standing there, looking like they'd been caught in the middle of a schoolyard argument. Their eyes met mine, and for a moment, neither said anything. I raised an eyebrow and gave them a sly smile. Gentlemen, I said, my voice light but amused. Do you mind if I join the discussion? The tension in the air seemed to crackle for a moment, before Leo broke into a grin, his usual charm slipping back into place. Only if you're ready for the real talk, Elara. Ethan, on the other hand, adjusted his glasses nervously. We're just, discussing the security measures, he explained, his voice a little stilted. I laughed softly, retreating into my room with a playful wave. Don't let me interrupt, but just so you know, I'll be the judge of which plan works best. The sounds of their bickering resumed as I closed the door behind me, and for the first time in days, I felt a strange peace wash over me. Despite the looming threat of Blackwood, I realized that whatever happened, I wasn't alone. Between Leo's unwavering confidence and Ethan's razor-sharp intellect, I had two men who cared enough to fight for my safety each in their own way. But little did they know, I wasn't as helpless as they thought, and when the time came, I would show them just how much I was capable of. There's a storm brewing that night, and I can feel the electricity in the air as I sit in the library, listening to the rain against the windows. The rhythmic patter of the storm, mixed with the occasional distant rumble of thunder, creates an oddly soothing atmosphere. I let my fingers trace the edges of the book in my lap, the leather soft and worn with age, as I lose myself in the soundscape of the night. The weight of the world seems to quiet around me, the hum of the estate and the distant murmurs of the staff fading as I settle deeper into my own thoughts. Tomorrow will be the day Marcus Blackwood attempts his heist. I don't know exactly when or how he'll strike, but I can feel a heavy, palpable tension in the air, like the calm before the storm. Despite all the precautions, all the security, all the preparations, I know there's more at play here. And while Leo and Ethan bicker over who's got the best approach to my safety, I've come to realize something. I don't need saving. I'm not helpless. And when the time comes, I'll show them both that I can take care of myself. I'm still lost in these thoughts when Leo finds me, slipping quietly into the room like he's always done. His footsteps are familiar, his presence as steady as the constant beat of the storm outside. I don't need to see him to know he's there though. I can feel it in the air, like a pulse. Something warm and grounded. A calm center in the middle of the brewing chaos. Couldn't sleep, he asked in his usual easygoing tone. It's almost a rhetorical question. After all, Leo knows me well enough to recognize when my mind is restless. I shake my head, though I doubt he can see the gesture. No, just thinking, I reply quietly, not bothering to elaborate. The last thing I want to do is discuss my thoughts with him, at least not yet. He takes the seat beside me without hesitation, the comfortable weight of his presence filling the space around me. For a moment, there's silence between us, a quiet calm that feels safe, comforting, like the world outside doesn't matter, like there's nothing but this room and the storm. Leo's hand rests casually on the arm of the chair, his body relaxed despite the tension that hangs in the air, the calm before his own kind of storm. He doesn't need to fill the silence with words, and neither do I. The space between us is enough. But, of course, it doesn't last. As if on cue, the door opens with a soft creak, and Ethan steps inside, clearly surprised to find Leo already here. There's a brief moment where neither of them speaks, and I can feel the shift in the room. A slight tightening of the air as the two men size each other up without a word. Elara, Ethan begins, his voice a little sharper than usual. I wanted to review the security details for tomorrow's event. He pauses when he notices Leo sitting next to me. I don't need to see his face to know the flicker of surprise and irritation that crosses his features. He's aware of the unspoken tension between them, and he doesn't like it. Not one bit. The silence stretches a little too long, and I can almost feel the energy crackling between them. Ethan's presence is different from Leo's. Where Leo is easygoing, full of wit and casual charm, Ethan is all sharp edges and focused intensity. A man driven by the need to stay in control, to anticipate every possibility. It's like there are two sides of a coin: Leo's laid-back confidence and Ethan's analytical mind. And I'm caught somewhere in between. I can feel their rivalry simmering beneath the surface, even though neither will admit it out loud. It's subtle, at least for now, but it's there in the way they look at each other, in the way they both try to step just a little closer to me when they think the other isn't looking. The competition is growing, each one trying to win my favor in his own way. They both want something from me, something more than just my safety, and I know it. It's in their eyes and their gestures, and the way their voices soften when they speak to me, like they're testing the waters, hoping to make an impression. But I've never been one to make things easy for anyone, especially not for them. I tilt my head slightly, sensing the subtle tension between the two men, both of them trying to assert their place in my world. You two never stop, do you? I say, my voice light but with an edge of amusement. They've both been on edge lately, each trying to prove he's the better protector, the one who can truly keep me safe. Leo's lips curl into a half smile, his voice warm as always. I can't speak for Ethan, but I never stop if it means keeping you safe, Elara, he says with a wink, his words smooth, reassuring. It's his way of saying that no matter how much they bicker, he's here. For me, Ethan's response is more measured, though there's a hint of frustration beneath his calm exterior. Keeping you safe requires more than instinct, he says, his eyes flickering toward Leo before they settle back on me. It requires planning, foresight, and preparation. Tomorrow is critical, and we don't have time for distractions. His voice is precise, firm. I smile at them both, sensing the subtle dance between them, the push and pull, the rivalry masked by concern and a strange kind of care. They're different, these two men, yet each has found a way into my heart. I can feel it, their quiet admiration, their growing attachment. But neither of them knows what's truly in my heart, what I really need from them, what I want from them. Neither of them understands that the fight for my attention, for my approval, won't be won through competition. It will be won through trust, through working together, and maybe, just maybe, if they stop trying to outdo each other, they'll see that. The storm outside rages on, but inside, with both of them here, I feel strangely calm. The rivalry between Leo and Ethan is far from over, and I have no doubt it will intensify as the night draws on. But for now, I let the peace of the moment settle over me. Whatever happens, I'll be ready. After all, this isn't just about the Joel or Marcus Blackwood. This is about proving that I'm in control of my own life, and maybe, just maybe, letting them help me do that. When the clock strikes midnight, the estate is plunged into silence, save for the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. It's an eerie stillness, the calm before the storm. My heart races, but my body remains steady, trained for moments like this. And then, beep, the alarm goes off, cutting through the silence like a knife, and in an instant, I know he's here. Marcus Blackwood has breached the mansion grounds. I feel the sharpness of the moment, a rush of adrenaline. But no fear. I've prepared for this. The house may be vast, but I know it like the back of my hand. Every hallway, every corner, every hidden door. It's my home, my sanctuary. And no one, not even a criminal mastermind like Marcus, will take that from me. Leo and Ethan spring into action immediately, their voices crackling through the earpiece in my ear. They're in their element, both of them the first to react, the first to spring into action. But I don't need their help. Not yet. They've trained their eyes on the ground, tracking every move. But they're not paying attention to the real advantage here. Me. I slip away from them, moving silently through the mansion's back corridors. It's almost funny how often people forget that this is my home. It's not just a building to me, it's a labyrinth I've memorized down to the smallest detail. Every creak in the floorboards, every twist in the passageways, every hidden doorway behind a bookcase or beneath the floorboards. I've lived here my entire life. I don't need sight to navigate it. I know exactly where I am, and exactly where Marcus's men are. I can feel the presence of the intruders through the house, like ripples on a still pond. They move stealthily, their heavy boots soft against the marble floors, but I can sense them. I can hear the slight echoes of their movements, the faint shifts in the air. It's as though the house itself whispers to me, guiding my steps. In the security room, I can hear Ethan's frantic tapping on his tablet, his voice tight with tension. They're moving toward the main gallery, he says, his voice clipped. Leo, can you cover the West Wing? Already there? Genius. Leo replies with a scoff, his voice full of confidence. Just keep your fancy gadgets out of my way. The banter between them is always a constant, even now, with everything on the line. But I can tell their rivalry is temporarily set aside for the more pressing matter at hand. They'll both play their parts, Leo with his instinctive, hands-on approach and Ethan with his calculated, tech-driven strategy. But me? I'm going to handle things in my own way. Quietly, strategically. As they talk over the comms, I slip through the darkness, my feet barely making a sound. I'm headed toward the vaults. I know Marcus will be there. He'll think it's a prize he's after, the Worthington sapphire. But he'll be wrong. He's walking into my trap, and he has no idea what he's about to face. The cool stone walls of the mansion seem to embrace me as I move, my footsteps muffled by the thick carpeting. I reach the staircase that leads down into the basement, where the vault is hidden, and pause for a moment. I don't need to rush. Everything is falling into place. Marcus and his men will be in for a surprise. They'll think they've won, but they haven't accounted for me. I know exactly where Marcus's men are. Two of them have split off toward the grand staircase, likely heading for the gallery to distract Leo. Another is on the east wing, probably trying to disable the security system Ethan so carefully set up. That leaves the vault unguarded for now. I'm almost there. As I descend the final steps into the vault room, I feel the cold, comforting presence of the thick metal door ahead of me. I run my fingers over the keypad next to it, my fingers gliding over the grooves I've memorized. I've had this vault open and closed 1,000 times, though I've never used it for quite this purpose. Before I enter, I press the button hidden beneath the marble, activating the house's security lockdown. The mansion's doors will be sealed tight. No one in or out. Marcus's men will be trapped in the house, just like him. And then, I will have them all right where I want them. I pause for a moment, listening. The storm outside rages on, the wind howling against the windows. But inside the house is deadly quiet. The only sound is the soft hum of the security system, and my own breath. I take a deep breath and enter the vault, my heart beating steadily. I can feel Marcus getting closer now, his men just a few steps behind him. But they don't know what's waiting for them. They think they're the ones in control. They're wrong. The lights in the vault flicker on as I step inside, and I smile to myself. It's almost time. The element of surprise is mine, and Marcus Blackwood will have no idea what's hit him. As I reach the mansion's sound system control, I feel the subtle tension building in the air around me. Marcus's men are drawing closer, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of the hallways. I know they think they're closing in on me. They think they have the advantage. But I've been waiting for this moment, the moment when I get to show them just how out of their depth they are. I pause for a second, listening intently to the distant shuffle of their movements. They're close. I press the button. Suddenly, the mansion is filled with the blaring, upbeat chorus of an old pop song, a ridiculous tune from the 90s, full of cheesy lyrics and an infectious rhythm. It's loud. It's obnoxious. It's completely unexpected. I can almost feel the disoriented confusion spreading like wildfire through Marcus's team as they try to figure out where the music is coming from. Their careful stealth completely shattered by the jarring noise. The sound of their swearing and fumbling echoes through the mansion as they fumble with their weapons, clearly unable to figure out how to silence the chaos they've been thrown into. I can't help it, I laugh. It's a sharp, triumphant sound that feels good in the tense air of the estate. And as I hear Leo's voice crackle through the earpiece, I know I'm not the only one enjoying the moment. Nice touch, Elara, Leo says, his laugh deep and incredulous. The guy might be all brash confidence on the outside, but he can't resist the humor in the situation. I can practically hear the grin on his face. Even Ethan, ever the serious one, can't hold back a small chuckle. I have to admit, I didn't see that one coming, he admits, the tiniest hint of respect in his voice. The relief in his tone is evident. He's caught off guard by the move, and I know that's exactly what I wanted. For once, it's not Aztec that's saving the day, it's me. Good, I mutter to myself, smirking. It's nice to know I'm keeping them on their toes. I've always loved games, and this one is no different. I've studied my opponents, watch their every move, and now it's time to turn the tables. Marcus may be a cunning criminal mastermind, but he's far too used to playing with the rules he sets. I'm playing by my own, and this mansion is my playground. With every second that passes, I can hear the tension rise on the other end of the earpiece. I know that Leo is ready for whatever comes next. Ethan, however, is scanning his system for solutions. His mind is racing, no doubt trying to understand how this unexpected move fits into his carefully planned security system. He's caught off guard, but he's quick to recover. As I slip deeper into the mansion's core, my senses heightened by the chaos I've unleashed. I can feel the laughter of Leo and Ethan fading into the background. The moment has passed, and it's time to focus. The music continues to blast through the mansion, and I hear Marcus's men frantically scrambling, trying to silence the noise, their focus splintering as they argue with each other. It's a beautiful mess, one I've created with nothing more than a press of a button. The distraction is giving me exactly what I need. Time to get into position. I move toward the vault with precision, every step calculated. The sound of the music still reverberates in the walls, adding a surreal layer to the tension I can feel building. The storm outside intensifies, the rain lashing against the windows in wild sheets. But inside, the chaos is contained in my hands. The vault is ahead of me. I pause, taking a moment to enjoy the symphony of confusion unfolding throughout the estate. I imagine Marcus and his team trying to regroup, his carefully laid plans disrupted by something so simple, so utterly absurd. I smile, almost to myself. It's moments like these that remind me why I've always preferred being in control of my own destiny. And as I press the final code into the vault door, the system confirming my input with a soft beep, I know that this game is far from over. Marcus will be arriving soon, but he won't expect me. He won't expect the chaos I've set in motion. In this game, I'm always one step ahead. And for the first time in this entire night, I can hear Leo's voice over the comms, still amused. This is a hell of a game, Elara. You've got more tricks up your sleeve than I ever gave you credit for. I smirk, and I'm just getting started. As I make my way toward the vault, I can't help but feel the adrenaline humming beneath my skin. Every hallway I pass, every door I push open, I'm reminded of how well I know this place, how much control I have over my surroundings. It's a sense of power I don't often need to flaunt, but tonight, it feels good to have it. Marcus may think he's in charge, but the truth is, he has no idea what he's up against. Just as I round the corner, I come face to face with Ethan. His eyes widen in shock as he sees me, moving swiftly through the hallway. Elara, he whispers urgently, his voice low but intense. His hands move in a way that's almost protective, as if he wants to stop me right there. What are you doing here? You should be safe in your room. I stop in my tracks, meeting his gaze with a calm that feels almost serene in the chaos around us. I appreciate your concern, Ethan, I reply with a gentle smile. My voice is steady, but there's a sharp edge to it. But I know this place better than anyone. I'm not helpless, and I'm certainly not some damsel in distress. He hesitates, his brow furrowing as he looks at me. The tension between us shifts, and I feel something unspoken pass between us, something heavy. He takes a half step forward, lowering his voice even further. Elara, he murmurs, his words trailing off as he pauses. There's an undeniable sincerity in his tone, and something else, something deeper. I have to tell you, I can't keep pretending that I don't feel. Before he can finish, a sharp noise echoes down the hall, and I know exactly who it is. Leo. He's quick, always moving with purpose. I barely hear his footsteps before he's rounding the corner, breathless, but undeterred. His eyes flick between me and Ethan, his expression hardening. Hey, what's going on here? He looks at Ethan first, then back to me. Suspicion flares in his eyes. Elara, you shouldn't be wandering around like this. I thought we agreed. Agreed? I raise an eyebrow, a smile playing on my lips. I can't help but tease. Since when do I take orders from you? Leo grins back, but there's something more possessive in his tone than usual, something that gives me pause. since I'm the one who's actually watching your back. I let out a soft laugh, unable to resist. Always the hero, aren't you? But the moment doesn't last long. Ethan's voice cuts in, a little sharper than before, his patience fraying at the edges. You're both reckless if you think this is a game, he says, the tension in his words palpable. There's a criminal in the house, and neither of you is in control of the situation. If we're going to survive this, I don't let him finish. I step forward, my heart beating with a rhythm that matches the urgency in the air. Boys, I say, raising a hand to interrupt, we have an intruder in the house. Maybe save the rivalry for later. The irony isn't lost on me. I've watched them spar for my attention, each one trying to outdo the other. But right now, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is Marcus and what he's about to learn. With grumbling reluctance, they both fall and to step beside me, the unspoken tension between them still lingering, thick as fog. But their disagreement doesn't matter now. They're a team again, at least for this moment, each one trying to shield me without looking too eager. Leo, always the protector, is positioned just a step ahead of me, his hand resting near his sidearm. Ethan stays close, his eyes scanning the surroundings, always calculating, always analyzing. I can feel the tension rising, the silent battle between them over who will prove himself worthy. It's almost laughable, really. But for now, I push it aside. They can fight for my attention all they want later. Tonight, Marcus will learn the lesson of his life, and I'll make sure they're both part of the lesson. I stop just outside the vault door. The metal gleams in the low light, a silent reminder of what's at stake. Ready? I ask, my voice low but full of purpose. I hear Leo's affirmative grunt, and Ethan's tight always, both of them falling into position, ready to back me up. We're a unit. In our own way, Leo's instincts, Ethan's mind, and my knowledge of this mansion, like the back of my hand. I trust them, but more than that, I trust myself. I've never needed anyone's approval, not really. And tonight, I'm going to prove why. With a steady hand, I enter the final code. The vault door clicks open, and I step inside, feeling the cool air rush over me as the room reveals itself. The Worthington sapphire glinting like a beacon in the dim light. But I don't let myself get distracted. Not yet. Stay sharp, I murmur into the comms. But I'm already several steps ahead of them. We have company coming. Outside the vault, Leo and Ethan exchange a glance, and I can almost feel them reassessing the situation. But their rivalry, it's a distant memory now, whatever happens next. We're in this together. And I'm about to make sure Marcus doesn't know what hit him. When we reach the vault, the tension in the air is palpable. Marcus is already there, his silhouette a dark shadow against the dim light. He stands motionless for a moment, his eyes scanning the vault door and the surrounding area, unaware that he's not the only one anticipating this moment. His focus is entirely on the jewel he believes is within his grasp until I step forward. I move slowly, deliberately, my footsteps soft and controlled, making no noise on the marble floor. I know this house like the back of my hand. Every creak, every shift in the air, I can feel it. Marcus doesn't see me at first, his back turned. But I know he'll feel my presence soon enough. Marcus, I say, my voice calm, my words clear and unwavering. I don't raise it, don't rush. I speak like I'm addressing an old acquaintance, one who has long since lost any power over me. He freezes. I hear the sharp intake of his breath. For a brief moment, there's complete silence, and then his head whips toward me. Surprise flashes across his face, his brow furrowing, as he struggles to comprehend how I could have known he would be here. How I could have known that he would come for the sapphire tonight. What? How did you know I'd be here? He stammers, his voice betraying the first crack in his confident facade. His eyes dart around, searching for an escape. But he can't hide the tension in his shoulders. He came here expecting an easy score, expecting an unguarded mansion and a helpless heiress. Instead, he's met with someone who's been waiting for him all along. I allow myself a small, almost imperceptible smile. It's a victory of sorts, though the fight isn't over. I know everything that happens in my home, I replied coolly, the confidence in my voice unmistakable. Every creak of the floorboards, every shift in the air. I was never going to be the one caught off guard. His eyes narrow, anger bubbling beneath the surface of his surprised disbelief. Before he can react, before he can make a move, I take a single step closer, my posture poised, ready. Then, in a flash, he lunges toward the vault, his hand reaching for the sapphire. But he's too late. Before he can even make it halfway, Leo and Ethan are already in motion, their training kicking in with perfect synchronization. Leo is first, moving like a blur, his body low and fast, his presence a protective force that fills the room. In a single, graceful movement, he intercepts Marcus, blocking his path with ease. He's quick, but not reckless. He's calculating. I hear the brief grunt as they collide, Leo's body striking, with just enough force to send Marcus stumbling backward. But Leo doesn't let up. He's got a firm grip on Marcus's arm, twisting it just enough to disorient him without doing too much damage. Ethan follows with the precision of a surgeon, his every move calculated and methodical. He doesn't engage in brute force. Instead, he moves silently behind Marcus, pinning him with a chokehold that leaves the criminal little room to escape. There's no hesitation in Ethan's actions. Every step, every motion, is precise, a testament to the cold efficiency of his mind. I stand back for a moment, taking in the scene, my heart steady as I watch them. It's not the physical combat that's won this fight, it's the teamwork. It's the understanding we developed, the unspoken connection that runs between the three of us. We've worked together, even if we didn't fully admit it. And now, in the heat of the moment, it's paying off. Marcus, now subdued, struggles against their hold, his breath coming in shallow gasps. But it's useless. He's trapped, completely outmatched. I should have known better, he mutters, his voice tinged with bitterness and defeat. I thought you were just some helpless little girl. I lean in slightly, my gaze never leaving his as I watch the defeated man in front of me. That was your mistake. Never underestimate a woman who's at home in her own skin and in her own house. Leo and Ethan hold him steady, their grips unwavering as they wait for my next move. I can see the tension in both their faces, the slight gleam of pride in their eyes. I step forward, my fingers brushing lightly against the smooth edge of the vault door. The sapphire, the precious Worthington heirloom, sits quietly within, untouched. But it's not the jewel that matters now, it's the victory. You're done, Marcus, I say softly, the words final, the authority in my voice unmistakable. You're not getting away with this. Ethan gives me a small nod of approval, his eyes flickering with something more than just professional respect, something personal. It's a fleeting moment, but I catch it, and for the first time tonight, it feels like a victory on all fronts. Leo, still holding Marcus, shoots me a sly grin. Nice work, Elara, he says, his voice a little rougher than usual, like he's trying to mask the pride in his tone. I smile at both of them, taking a moment to bask in the aftermath of the chaos. It's quiet now. The tension, the uncertainty, it's all been swept away. Marcus is captured, his plans undone. And for once, I feel like I've truly outsmarted him. We make a good team, I say, my voice laced with a hint of amusement. The next time, we might want to make sure our rivalries are saved for another night. They both chuckle, but the relief is palpable in the air. There's no need for further words. The job is done. As we wait for the authorities to arrive and take Marcus away, I stand there, a quiet sense of satisfaction settling in my chest. The worth of this night isn't in the triumph alone, it's in knowing that I've proven something to myself. Something I've always known but never truly vocalized. I am not helpless. Not now, and not ever. And I have two unlikely allies who, despite all their rivalry, will be by my side when the storm clouds clear. Don't mess with the blind heiress, I murmur to myself with a quiet smile. Are her two loyal fools? As the authorities arrive to take Marcus away, Leo and Ethan stand by my side, each of them still catching his breath. The room, once filled with tension and chaos, now feels oddly still, as though the calm after the storm has wrapped itself around us. The clatter of handcuffs, the murmurs of officers, and the rustle of uniforms seem distant, fading away as I look at the two men who have been at the heart of this whole ordeal. Leo, with his laid-back charm and natural confidence, still exudes a sense of quiet strength. Ethan, on the other hand, stands a little more rigid, his sharp mind always calculating, his body still tense from the adrenaline. I can feel their presence beside me, the unspoken bond that's formed through the chaos of the night. And yet, there's something else in the air, a deeper connection, one that's more than just the duty of protecting me. I take a breath and turn to face them both. There's a flicker of gratitude in my chest, a warmth that surprises me as I look at the men who have risked everything to keep me safe. But beyond that, there's something more. Something that has been building quietly over time. Something I've only just begun to acknowledge. Thank you, I say softly. The words more meaningful than they might seem. My voice is gentle, but there's a sincerity in it that I can't quite hide. I couldn't have done this without you. I step toward them, and in one fluid motion, I press a soft kiss to each of their cheeks. The gesture is light-hearted, but it carries weight more than just gratitude. I feel the heat of their surprised stares as they both freeze for a split second. They don't know how to react, and in that moment, I can't help but smile to myself. It's amusing to see them so taken aback, their confident exteriors cracking, just a little. But I can't resist teasing them further. I take a step back and flash them both a playful grin, my eyes dancing with a mix of mischief and amusement. Now, if you two can ever figure out how to work together, I add with a tilt of my head, maybe one of you will finally stand a chance. The words hang in the air for a moment, and I watch as their expressions flicker. Leo's lips twitch, a smile threatening to break free, while Ethan, ever the serious one, looks at me, and then at Leo, his brow furrowing in confusion. The tension between them, the rivalry that has been so apparent from the start, is now thick with something else, something that I'm only beginning to understand. They both stare at me, their gazes lingering a little too long, before they exchange a brief, almost imperceptible glance. It's enough to let me know that this is far from over, that the story we've begun is only just starting to unfold. I can see it in the way they both react, how they stand just a little bit closer to each other now, as if the shared experience of the night has shifted something between them. And I know, deep down, that this is only the beginning of something much larger. There's an adventure waiting for us, one that involves more than just criminals and heists. It involves trust, teamwork, and whether they admit it or not, something more than just rivalry. As Marcus is led away in cuffs, and the flashing lights of police cars illuminate the driveway, I feel a strange sense of peace settle over me. The weight of the night's events lifts, but the uncertainty of the future is still there, hanging just out of reach like a shadow at sunset. I turn back to Leo and Ethan, both men still standing close, still unsure of what's next. But I don't need to say anything more. They already know that whatever happens, we'll face it together, just as we always have. Let's go, I say, my voice firm yet light, as I begin to walk away from the chaos. We've earned a drink or two, and as I hear the hesitant footsteps of Leo and Ethan fall in line behind me, I know that we've crossed a threshold. Whatever rivalry has existed between them is not gone, but it's been tempered by something new, something stronger, and that, I realize, is just the first of many surprises this journey will bring. As the night falls quiet again, I can't help but smile to myself. This is just the beginning, and I, Elara Worthington, will always be one step ahead. Story ends. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this, show some love by hitting like, sharing it with someone you know, and subscribing so you can be part of this channel's journey. See you again for another silly story.